All right, it is time again to round up another big story from the week, and we're talking about the situation in Ukraine. Despite a deal to de-escalate the situation there, pro-Russian separatists are showing no signs of leaving the government buildings they occupy in eastern Ukraine. Barricades remain around government buildings, and the Russian flag continues to fly high despite Thursday's deal calling for pro-Russian forces to pull back. On Friday, leaders announced plans to reform the Constitution and give amnesty to those taking up the pro-Russian cause. But for the deal to work, Ukraine wants the militias to give up the buildings and weapons they hold. The Obama administration expects Russia to use its power over the demonstrators, but warns if there is no progress, more sanctions could be forthcoming. So are more sanctions warranted, and is there a risk the U.S. could be drawn into a wider conflict? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you. In our newsroom, we have our legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and our public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. All right, good morning, guys. What do you think?
Well, look, Ukraine is a part of NATO now. NATO's agreement is that if their country, one of the NATO members gets attacked, that NATO has an obligation and a duty to move in and defend that member country. And so NATO is making plans right now to send troops in. The last report I read was up to 20,000 troops from the United States would be involved in the NATO operation if they move in. This is a very scary time, Jackie Bally, for us to be squaring off with Russia. But sanctions, are they working? You see armed men taking over public buildings in the Ukraine. All reports are those are Russian troops that are doing it and then turning it over to the locals. Sanctions, are they working?
No. And Putin could care less about what we say. He's a ruthless leader. He's very tactical, very strategic in his thinking. Every move he's made, he's thinking decades ahead, versus our president, who is very political, and he thinks one crisis at a time. The president has drawn many red lines we've seen in many different instances, and nothing has happened. We're now threatening sanctions without any kind of military backup or military strikes. And unfortunately, and you said it right, I mean, this is a very scary time, and I think Putin is taking advantage of the fact that we have a weak president in foreign policy.
Part of the problem that I have uncovered, Mustafa Tamiz, is that after the end of the Cold War, the United States invested heavily in Russia. Not with this president, with all presidents, we've invested heavily. ExxonMobil has billions of dollars invested in refineries in Russia. We are now dependent upon Russia to get to the space station. And so we really can't put a lot of sanctions on a country that we are that heavily invested in, can we?
Well, the hard part about the sanctions is that it just doesn't affect the side that you're imposing sanctions on, but people that buy from them. So Russia's leading export in oil and gas, which goes right to the European Union. And so if you
and Europe's buying that gas,
and Europe's buying that gas, so it not only just affects Europe, but global, gas prices. So in essence, if we created these very, not these strategic sanctions, but broad-based sanctions on Russia, you would drive the gas prices and oil prices go up substantially, and that would affect all of us. And just to get back to Jackie's point about like all the roads end back with President Obama. Look, we don't control the world. Russia is its own entity. They're trying to, reassert the USSR mentality, and they're trying to grow their national prominence. And Putin, in order to survive, has to do that. And President Obama has been a very strong foreign policy leader. I mean, he's the guy that killed, Osama bin Laden. So to call him weak is just not accurate.
But understanding, Jackie Bally, that Russia wants to reassert itself as a world power, which it hasn't been since the Cold War fell. Yes. Wasn't it a mistake for the United States to treat them as a friend for the last 25 years, as opposed to, an enemy that you maybe trade with, but not our friend?
What do you do? Keep your enemies closer, isn't that the phrase?
Well,
especially someone like Putin. He's someone that you would never trust. And he's now showing us exactly who he is. And I think he is taking advantage of the fact that we had someone who did trust him. And he's taken advantage of the fact that we are at a weak position because of our current president. And he actually has the upper hand. Everything that has happened so far, the deal that was struck, is not really a deal. It's just a deal that they can say, hey, we made a deal. And it was really crammed down a lot of people's throats. It's not very effective.
Let me ask you, Mustafa, before we run out of time. Yesterday, you were talking about gas sales from Russia. The United States hasn't sold petroleum or gas in Europe in a very long time. Yesterday, the president delayed again until November a decision on the Keystone Pipeline that would allow us a quicker ability to start selling gas and oil in Europe to lessen that Russian dominance. Wouldn't that be a better road?
Well, when you say quicker, it's not weeks or months, it's years down the road when the pipeline gets built. An export terminal gets built, on the Houston Ship Channel. It'll take a very long time before that gets done, and it should get done right. I am for the Keystone Pipeline. I think it should be built, and I think it will be built. But isn't it smart to try to do it in a wise way, preventing environmental issues in the short run rather than long-term litigations if it does go wrong? So I think the president will approve that. And then getting back to just from a foreign policy standpoint, we have made some mistakes in dealing with Russia. We have to fix it, and that's not just President Obama. That's been historically the United States.
We're gonna have to leave it right there, Sally. I hope you have a great, happy Easter with those two beautiful children of yours.
Oh, thank you. You guys too. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And thanks so much for coming in. We'll see you next week.